Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this afternoon's installment of Facebook Live from Nasdaq. And we are thrilled this afternoon to welcome Al Angrisani. Al is one of our favorite Nasdaq CEOs. Al, you've been CEO of 4 Nasdaq-listed companies and have created tremendous value and turnaround in very difficult, challenging situations. Includes Greenfield Online, which you sold to Microsoft for $500 million.
That's right.
And Harris Interactive, which you sold to
Nielsen
Holdings.
Right.
So, and now Al is sharing his insights on wealth creation through adversity with us in his newest book, From Last to First, and is published by Humanix Publishing, and it's a division of Newsmax Media, and available, by the way, on Amazon.com. Nasdaq listed innovator. We had to do the commercial there.
All Nasdaq, all the time.
Well, we're thrilled to have you and welcome you back to Nasdaq, again, one of our favorite CEOs. So, Al, congratulations on this book. This is your second one?
This is my second book, great.
Well, fantastic. And I always like to start on, why'd you write it? What compelled you to do it?
I'm very passionate about this. I was finishing up an assignment, and I was on the train coming back from Washington, D.C., and I just finished reading about how 1% of the population in the world controls over 95% of all the wealth in the world. And as a grandfather of 3 grandsons and 1 more on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It bothers me very much that my grandchildren have, in America, less than a 5% chance of accumulating wealth of over $1 million. And if you make them part of the global equation, they have less than a 1% chance. And I said, I'm going to start to share what I know about building wealth with all the people who are going to find it difficult to do that in the future.
Yeah, one of the things that makes me think about, Alan, having read it with our audience and having worked with so many of them, has this changed? Is this a new phenomenon where it has gotten more difficult?
Absolutely. If you go back to 1929, the last Great Depression, and you look at how wealth accumulation has occurred over the last 80 to 100 years, basically what you see is that back in the early 30s, you could start a business with very little capital, you can be successful, and you could accumulate real cash wealth by virtue of saving and thriving and doing all the right things. In today's society, you can do everything right if you're working on a W-2, and you can make millions of dollars, but because education's so much more expensive, your ability to accumulate capital is so much harder. It makes it less likely that even if you work hard and are successful, you will build wealth and success by virtue of just working.
Has that been a gradual change? Do you think there was some point where,
yes,
to which?
It's been a gradual change, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better unless we change the paradigm and start teaching people who haven't been born with wealth and who don't already know how to create it, unless we teach them how to do it. And that's what my book tries to do. It tries to teach you the basic things that you need to know if you aren't born wealthy, how to create wealth in America today.
And you have certainly accomplished that. You've lived the American dream. It includes private sector, having been a CEO. It also includes the government, correct? So you did some work in the Reagan White House.
Correct.
Secretary of Labor. Has all of this informed the perspectives that you bring to the book?
Well, I was born a poor boy in Newark, New Jersey, and so having any capital or access to capital was not available to me. So everything I've done through all the different stages of my life has been on my own. But what I've learned, and I've shared in this book, the secret sauce, the messages that really resonated for me, which maybe we can touch on because I know you've read the book, that if other people attempt to do, they should have the same success that I did in building wealth, even if they didn't have any to start with.
And even if it's more of a challenge today.
Absolutely.
So the more things change, they do have some basic fundamentals. And I did read the book, and you give some great advice. And if it's okay, I'd like to just touch on a few things that really jumped out.
Absolutely.
I loved the first one. To channel your inner Rocky and be all about the fight.
Rocky, right? It's all about Rocky. You better be a fighter, because the decks are stacked against you. If you aren't born with money, if you're working on a W-2, and you're out there competing in the world today, the deck's stacked against you. The only way you're going to get ahead is to say to yourself, I'm a fighter, and I'm going to win. And so you better channel your inner Rocky before you take on this journey we're about to talk about.
And leads me to the next bit of advice you had, believe in yourself.
You have to believe in yourself. You have to get up in the morning. I don't care what you're doing right now. Once you decide you're going to fight this fight, you got to believe in yourself and say, I'm going to win at all costs because I'm a winner. The minute you doubt yourself, you lose.
You know, one of the things that jumped out at me too with your advice is I love what I do. I'm really passionate about this and engaging with those who seek to create opportunity and wealth. You mentioned in your book to find your passion.
Absolutely. I didn't find my passion and purpose, what I was good at and what I was passionate about, until I was 45 years old. Until then, I paid the bills, I took care of my kids, I really didn't build any wealth. But the minute I was able to find that passion and purpose, then there wasn't anything that could stop me, because it wasn't work anymore, it was a labor of love.
And the passion at times, though, leads to risk, which you also address in the book. You tell your readers to do what?
I love
Embrace
it. Run to fire.
Run to it.
Right, like the first responders that ran into the 9/11 crisis, like our military that runs to a crisis. You have to embrace that risk. You have to say, I want a risk. I'm going to win. I'm going to manage it, and I'm going to turn that risk into an opportunity for me.
You know, Al, I actually think in terms of my privilege of working with you, you have run to risk with companies that you've run on behalf of Nasdaq. They haven't always done very well when you showed.
I've taken on companies that nobody wanted to touch. That the guys that were the pros in my industry, the turnaround industry, didn't want to touch. But I said, I believe in myself. I'm a fighter. All the things we've talked about.
Right.
The cycle repeating itself. And I took on those challenges, and I created wealth where they were afraid to create wealth.
Makes me think of one more you mentioned in the book. You play to win. What's your advice to your readers?
Well, that one I have to give our president some credit for, because in his book, The Art of the Deal, he talks about winning and betting big on yourself. And that's so true here. If you've done all the things that we've talked about, then when you get to the point where you have the opportunity, you got to play to win. If you're either going to win or they're going to carry you out on your shield, and you got to bet big on yourself, so that when you're done, you really have a big payday.
Your thoughts, Al. A lot of folks think that it's a direct line, it's very linear. In your experience, have you found that these all bear repeating, the lessons?
Keep coming back. The same 8 or 10 basic principles in the book keep coming back. And once you memorize them, you use them over and over and over again, and you see how they link together.
And speaking of link together, another idea in your book that I really appreciate is you give some really good fundamental advice. And one of them is cash is king. So you have some goals, but also some good strategies to achieve it.
Right.
Tell us your thoughts about cash.
To all of the viewers and all the readers, this is the most important one. Cash is king. You have to have cash to be able to not only bet on yourself, but to basically be able to have the opportunity to capitalize on the opportunity. So whatever you got to do, save your money and have cash. Be a saver. When I was starting my career, I had 2 jobs, sometimes 3. And one of the other jobs was always to put the cash away, because I knew there'd be that time when there was going to be a company that I felt I could run, I had passion and purpose in, I was willing to fight for, that I knew I could win in. And when I found that company, I wanted to own it. I didn't want the bank to own it.
And you mentioned to me once about the decisions you make when you have some extra cash. They're a little better.
Absolutely. The decisions are always better, right? You're more measured, you're more judged, you feel more in control, and being in control allows you to make better decisions.
And do you think being in control and having that cash position allows you to pursue passions and take on those risks?
It does. That's very astute analysis, because it allows me to cherry pick the deals that I want to work on versus doing whatever deal shows up. And the more able I am to cherry pick the deal that I want, the more likely I'm going to be successful.
Thank you, Al. And if there's 1 or 2 thoughts that you want to impart to potential readers who are watching us today about the book or the benefit, your example, your life, what would you share?
Take you back to the 5%. For those of you that are having children and having families, it's a great time in your life, and nothing's better than children. I have 3 daughters. I love them dearly. But I tell you, the challenge of raising the next generation is getting harder and harder. And when you think about the fact that your children have less than a 5% chance of becoming millionaires, that means America has changed. You have to change with it. And you've got to learn the things that are in this book, because for your children to build wealth and have millionaires, you've got to be successful. And this is what my book's all about. It's about helping you help your children to be successful.
And you discuss that with your own children?
All the time. Not to say they listen to me, but I do discuss it with them all the time.
It bears repeating to our earlier point.
And you have some children, so you understand what I'm saying.
They don't always listen the first time, though.
They don't.
But we take on the topic as well. So I myself am about to send one to university
Yep.
You know, would your advice be the sooner the better? And does that carry through in the book as well?
Yep. Well, the book, I think the book is something that you can share, the messages in it with children, your kids, not young children, but children certainly of college age, and to get them to understand what they're facing in terms of really, if they are wealth driven, being able to build wealth in America today. And it's an eye opener, and it may in fact in many ways impact their choice of careers and how they go about educating themselves.
You know, I deal with a lot of students in universities when I go out in the field, and I admire how interested they are in entrepreneurship. What would your advice be, and is that addressed in the book too, to college students who are thinking about starting their own business and might not have the capital that?
No, it's great. I encourage people coming out of college to try as many jobs as they can, whether they're working for a company or starting their own. Do as many things as you can until you have what I call in the book that aha moment where you say, I love that.
That's really
good at
passion.
it. Once that's there, then that's the rest of your life, because you're not going to do anything else. Why would you do anything else except what you're really good at and what you really love?
And your aha moment can come at any time. Yours was a little bit later.
I came at 45 years old, yeah.
And back to the 45, as you were setting out too, you took on a little bit of risks to do it?
I took on all the risk in the world. I started my own business. I had saved for it, and I had put 2 years' worth of savings away, but I had 3 little children. And I had all the things we've talked about. I had to have my fighter on. I had to believe in myself. I had to play to win. I had to run to fire and take risk. I had to have cash reserves. I had 2 years of cash reserves saved. But when the opportunity came, I saw it and I went for it. And it changed the course of my life. It changed the course of my family's lives and many other families with all the millionaires I've created in my deals.
Certainly a great accomplishment too, Al. One last question then about the book, or series of questions. As you're sitting down to write the book, I understand what inspires you to do it. What's the journey like? Is this a part-time or full-time immersion?
This is a full-time immersion. This is the second book I've written. I don't might be the last one. They take a lot of time. I'm very grateful and thankful to Newsmax Media and Humanex Books because they really helped me get this to market and get it here today. But it's a very difficult challenge if you want to be successful, and I don't do much not to be successful at.
Can you give us some ideas about what next with the book?
No,
You're working on this?
Like I say, it's Nasdaq all the time. My next thing is to find the next Nasdaq company to turn around.
Well, there are plenty of Nasdaq listed companies that could use your thoughts about that. One of the questions I always get, by the way, when I'm out there, and I'll share something from my standpoint, is people always want to know, what's the market going to do? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? My answer is always, of course, it will go up, it will go down. Despite all the challenges, what are you seeing as a seasoned executive out there? Are you optimistic about what lies forward?
Yes, I'm very optimistic about
despite the challenges.
Despite the challenges, America today, but we do have a lot of challenges. I think what's going on in Washington is encouraging. I was part of the Reagan administration, so I was part of that Reagan revolution. I believe it's a different type of change going on today, but the essence of it is all entrepreneurial, what we're talking about, how to put people in a position to be successful. And I see Washington trying to do that. Excuse me.
And to your readers, you would encourage them to, again, take on as much risk as they can, but be thoughtful about it?
Be thoughtful about it. And risk is great, but manage it.
A few other ideas or thoughts about the book that had jumped out to me too is just find that passion. So I want to thank you for finding the passion as well. And viewers, I want to thank you for joining us today. Remember, of course, to go on to Amazon.com to get your copy of From Last to First from Humanex Books, division of Newsmax Media. And thank you very much for joining us. And Al, I want to thank you for joining us as well today. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck and congratulations.